Welcome to the Social Media Church podcast. I'm Neil Smith, and I am joined by one of my best friends in the world, Chris Emmitt. Chris, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. This is awesome.
So Chris is the pastor of MLC in the greater Atlanta area, and I'm going to let him introduce himself in a minute and what he does and a little bit about their church. But I want to give you an introduction from my seat. I met Chris on the internet about 12 years ago. We both went to seminary online at Rockbridge Seminary and connected through that. And so I would say we were early days of using the internet for ministry and where I learned online ministry for the most part. And then Chris was also the leader that first empowered me to launch CBC Online at Community Bible Church. And so we've been great friends for over a decade and gotten to lock arms and partner for a long time. And Chris is now thriving and leading as the lead pastor there at MLC. So Chris, I'm excited to have you on the podcast. Give the listeners a little bit of understanding of MLC and just a little background on the church.
Yeah, so like I said, we met in the good old days of CBC and online seminary and everything, and then built online church together and had a lot of fun there. And then, out here about 5 years ago, I took over Mountain Lake Church in the North Atlanta area. Been here it'll be 5 years this October, and just had the time of our lives and great staff and great community and church, and just been a lot of fun leading. Yeah. And you and I have stayed connected throughout all that time. You've helped me, through MySpace and all the great tools.
And I still remember, Chris, I owe you on this one of when I was all in on Facebook, maybe 6 years ago, and you were like,
right,
dude, I think you need to lean into this Instagram platform. And that's when you were kind of focused on the youth.
That's it. Yeah.
A little bit. And you're like, pay attention to this. And I was like, no, Facebook is still where it's at. That's a little hobby platform right now. And
I know.
You know what? You pushed me into it, and I'm glad you did. You're obviously
Facebook bought Instagram. Their little hobby cost them $1 billion.
Well, which is now worth probably $50 to $80 billion.
Right.
Good investment. So Chris, maybe how big is MLC to give context to the size of the church?
Yeah, so we're 2 campuses, and so there's a teaching pastor at the other campus. I'm a teaching pastor at this campus and the lead pastor of both. So between the two, total attendance about 2,500 a weekend.
Very good. Very good. And I've got to tell the listeners, MLC is one of my favorite churches to visit. There are churches you go to where it's just healthy. When you walk in, there's an energy, there's a vibe. And I would say too, what I've seen kind of as your friend along the journey is the consistency at MLC has really, like, there's been steady growth, healthy development. So now you're facing a crisis. Tell me what, your first Sunday of having to cancel church, because I remember you and I were texting that week of like, I think it was Thursday. You're like, we're still meeting this Sunday, I think.
Right.
What was that decision process like, and how did you navigate that?
Yeah, so what's interesting is the 2 previous Sundays I was out because I was in Israel leading a group from our church, came back and had a great time. So I'd been out of the pulpit for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Was excited to get back, obviously, and share and all that kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden this hit, and we actually had 2 videos recorded. Mm-hmm. One, like, we're meeting, and one that were canceled. So I recorded both of those at the same time.
Yeah.
And just through a lot of, prayer and wisdom and honestly watching other leaders of both churches and the not church world, super smart leaders, they began to cancel. I was like, man, if they're canceling, then who am I to push forward with it? So yeah, we canceled, and obviously, like everybody else, haven't been back since.
Yeah. So you, and I think you were ahead of the curve because you already had an online stream, on Facebook page. You church has been pretty strong on social media leading up to now. How's what are you doing? Are you doing Zoom small groups? Are you doing church online platform? How live streaming on demand? What are you doing from a media standpoint?
Yeah, I think for a lot of churches, our online stream and it was a thing, and now it's the thing.
Yeah.
Right. So it used to be like, hey, here's our Sunday service, and we'd put it up there. Now it's like, no, this is our Sunday service. So I guess to categorize everything, it became a lot more personal.
Yeah.
Starting from when I preach, now I'm looking at the camera the whole time. right?
Yep.
The little red dot on the camera. There's not a live audience, obviously.
Yep.
We've ramped up Facebook and Instagram, started Facebook groups. Our small groups that we're meeting in homes, we'll now do Zoom meetings and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So just really ramped it up, and then pivoted our ministry staff to online and going, okay, here's how we now, minister. And I told our staff, our mission and vision are still the same. We still want to see Jesus change lives, right? We're trying to, create church environments where, Jesus changes lives. Those church environments now just look differently, but the mission and vision are still the same.
Yeah, I love that. How I'm curious how the local congregation has responded to the shift online. Are they just dealing with it? Are they embracing it? What's been their response?
So that's been one of the most encouraging things as the lead pastor, is the encouragement and support from our volunteers and attendees. Emails, text messages, Facebook messages. You guys are doing awesome. Hang in there. Praying for you all.
Wow.
Like, just overwhelming in a good way. Just like, wow. So they get it. They buy into it. They like it. They're sharing it. They support what we're doing. So yeah, it's been great.
Dude, I love that. I think I've shared this stat with you of I've been alarmed hearing a lot of the psychological stats that have come out of historical quarantines and the level of depression for the next 3 to 5 years that we could face. And then I also heard pastors are twice as likely to deal with depression, and the leading cause of depression is anxiety. And so this is, everybody is anxious right now. And to hear that your congregation is encouraging you, obviously you as a pastor want to be encouraging your congregation.
Right.
But those listening, you need to be encouraging your pastor in this season as well. And obviously pastors are trying to, it goes both ways. But I think so much people are trying to just in need right now, but I think to that, and I think to your health is your congregation that's around you. As you speaking to pastors directly, you've had about a decade worth of experience preaching to the camera. And so I think you and I remember talking early on of literally you started preaching your Sunday message on Monday directly to the camera, and we saw our engagement double during that season. What advice would you give to a pastor who has never preached to a camera before and is just uncomfortable without seeing the congregation right in front of them?
Yeah, so it's funny you mentioned that. So a couple of weeks ago when we first started, of course my dad watches. He's like, you do a great job preaching to the camera. I was like, oh, thanks. He's like, you know who you need to thank for that, don't you? I was like, who? He goes, Neil Smith.
You're welcome.
Yeah, he's like, he's the one who taught you how to do that. I was like, yeah, that's true, he did.
I didn't teach you that, to be clear, but I forced you into it.
You forced me into it. Same thing. So yeah, I mean, honestly, you were like one of those early adopters going, hey, look at the camera, because when you look at the camera, you're looking into people's, living rooms and kitchens and looking right at them. So, so if you've never done it before, it's brutal. Like, I still don't like doing it. Like, I think, at least me personally, I could be the only, I just love the live crowd and the interaction. And I think most pastors probably feed off of that stuff.
Yep.
So I guess a couple of things of advice is look right at the camera, especially when there's not an audience room, because if you start looking around the room, we're all watching going, well, we know you're preaching to an empty room, right? Yes. So if you take the cue from the news anchors, they're looking right at the camera, right? They're not looking around. So yeah, look right at the camera and just know that you're looking into people's living rooms and kitchens and you're connecting with them through the lens on that. Pause with your stories and jokes and points. The temptation is going to be just to fly right over it.
Yep.
But just, if it's going to be typically funniest live audience, they're at least chuckling or, nodding. And so give them that pause. And it just takes, it's hard. Yes. And the other thing I would tell you is just have a super encouraging, media crew there, because every time I preach, I'm like, that was awful. And they're like, no, it was good. It was good. I'm like, no, you guys are like, no. So yeah, you got to have a team around you that encourages you.
Yeah. That last point, I forget about that when I'm recording a video, when I have a camera guy that's nodding his head, that goes so far. And so for camera guys out there, for your pastor right now, your head nod is so valuable to the affirmation that they need. Or if they tell a joke, you need to smile and laugh, even if you don't think it's funny.
Yes, do that.
That pastor needs that.
He's struggling.
You're the only person, that they can see at that time. So that's a good call out there. Chris, we don't know where this is all going to go. But and how long this is going to last. But I'm curious from your perspective, because you've also, you and I were the early adopters together in online church. And I think we've had so much vision for this for so long. And I think we've, like we talked about, like when's the rest of the church going to catch up to this direction? What do you envision? What do you think the future will look like? The church will likely never be, and I say the church everywhere, and local churches everywhere. It seems like the internet will now be a significant part of every church. But what do you see the future looking like 6 months from now, a year from now, coming out of this?
I think the online ministry is no longer just going to be, well, we have that thing, right? Well, just watch what we're doing. I think it will be a significant part of the church's ministry strategy going forward. And not just, hey, we record our Sunday sermons and put it up there. Kids ministry, student ministry, small groups, missions. I think it's going, this is a really big deal. We've seen the impact of it. And so it's no longer just a thing. I think it'll be one of the top things for churches.
Yeah, I love that. One of the things that's been most encouraging to me that I've not seen in online ministry of 10 years of doing this is kids ministry. The creativity that I'm seeing churches do for kids ministry. We did Hillsong Kids on Sunday night with our family. And it was so fun. We put it on the TV and watched it, and our kids danced and sang, and we joined them. That's not been a part. And I think about it, you've got young kids that it is hard to make it to church every Sunday with young kids. And I think people have often thought that the internet just helps people skip church. Well, that's not the reality. I think the reality is a lot of people just can't go to church every Sunday, but when you can make those things available, it can be a both and situation. You obviously want people sitting in the seats, and you want to connect with them, even though you might not want to hug them. You want to make a relational connection with them face to face, because there is nothing more personal than that. And I think we are all lacking that in this season. And I think that's the importance of using technologies like Zoom. Is you and I talk on the phone a lot, but I think this connection for you and I is more significant than our regular phone calls.
Sure.
And so I think maximizing the most significant personal touch we can right now is key. And so selfishly, Chris, while I'm in the middle of New York City, so it's crazy here. I don't like this situation, but I do like how I see the church responding, and I am excited about what this is pushing the church into in the future, because I think they're seeing the opportunities that lie here, and that they can engage in a very relevant way. And it takes them out of the assembly line of how we do church on a regular basis. As we wrap up this conversation, as you speak to pastors and ministry leaders, what encouragement or just advice or thoughts do you want to share with them, just top of mind?
Yeah. Nobody knows how to lead through this. This is the first for pastors to lead through a worldwide pandemic and try to lead a church. So if you feel like you don't have the answers, I think that's pretty normal. You remember the little emoji with the guy goes like this? I think that's like most of us going. So I would just encourage you, the Psalm or Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 and 6, trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding. I think that really applies. Like, it's literally going, God, if you don't show up today in my life and my decisions and my meetings and my Zoom calls, I don't know how I'm going to make it through.
Yes.
Right. And lean not on your own understanding, and acknowledging him, bringing wise people, super smart people around, and just going, help us figure this out together and wrestle with it together. And give yourself permission to go, I'm going to try something and it may fall flat on its face, and then I'll change it tomorrow. Right. I mean, it's a super fluid situation that we're in, but I would just look for the encouraging things of God.
Yeah.
Right. The little divine appointments that you run into, the encouraging text or emails, or the new idea for online ministry, going, oh, I see God showing up. Because, just because the church doors are closed doesn't mean God has pulled his hand off of your ministry. I mean, this
Yeah.
This is an opportunity now to see God show up in new ways and fresh ways and going, oh, wow, we can still minister and help people and lead them closer to Jesus, even though the doors are closed. I would just encourage them with that.
Yeah, that's so good, man. And I think in this season, there's no one in my mind that was more prepared for this, unintentionally than you. And I think for you to even speak, it's okay to not know everything, and
the only way I was prepared for this is having you as a buddy. So that's the only way.
but I think you had a lot of people didn't even have a camera. They didn't know how to live stream. They didn't, it's really, this is a time. And I think to not just pretend like, okay, I got it figured out. Like, it's okay to not be okay. And that we're all kind of figuring this out in the next few weeks. And I think also figuring out when you get back to whatever you perceive to be normal, it won't ever probably be normal the way it was before.
Sure.
And so I think this is a time too, to lean into where God might be leading you and leading your church moving forward. And that doesn't mean the internet is everything for your church moving forward. But it is, society is going to be different after all of this. And so this is a good time though for pastors to really step up and lead. Chris, I appreciate you obviously as a friend so much, but your leadership and the way that, one of the things I love about working with you is you're always willing to try something new. And I think that's how, in many ways, you were prepared for or are helping navigate this season. And so I appreciate your leadership so much. How can people connect with MLC and how can they connect with you online?
Yeah. So the best way to connect with me is Instagram. That's the only place I hang out.
Instagram.
Yeah.
Into the DMs.
That's
at Chris Emmitt.
Chris Emmitt, one word. And then our church website is morelikechange.com. You can find all the,
All right. It'll be in the show notes. Go to socialmedia.church and I'll have those links there. Go follow Chris on Instagram. We need him to get to 10,000. He needs to swipe up.
Yeah. I want that blue check mark. Can you give me that blue check mark?
I can't quite do that, but we'll get you the swipe up. We'll get you the
That's
swipe
awesome.
up. Well, thanks for joining us, Chris.
You bet.